All right. Hey, everybody. Right into the episode. Another episode of The Fake Philosophers. Me and Danny this week. Mitch is in the process of moving. He hasn't moved yet, but he's packed up all his shit, so he couldn't join us tonight.
Yeah.
And then Eddie is in Madagascar hunting zebras.
Yeah, it happens.
Mm-hmm. How are you,
Last
Danny?
I heard, he was. I'm good. I've been better. My allergies are in overdrive right now because I was
Seasons
in.
changing?
Yeah, because the seasons are changing, and I think because like when I was in Rancho, we got that really killer storm
Oh, yeah.
over the weekend, and like the pressure is just fucking with my head right now.
That makes sense.
So I'm hoping it's allergies because I really don't want to be sick for this weekend.
Yes. And what's this weekend, Danny?
This weekend is your bachelor party, my good sir.
Yes.
And I'm
By
going
the
to
time
spoil
this
the
airs-
shit out of you.
By the time this airs, it'll be over.
Mm-hmm.
But, yes, this weekend is my bachelor party.
This last weekend was your bachelor party, and it was great. It was fun. We had a good time.
It was so good. It was so fun.
good. Remember that one thing we did? Oh,
I
so great.
regret that Kevin died, but it was so much fun. Yeah.
Why the black guy gotta die, Mike? Why the black guy gotta die?
Rules.
Just rules. Okay.
So let's jump right into it. I before we started recording, I said this was a funny headline, and you were like, "That's super old," but it's still new to me. So we were off last week, so I read this last week. Ukrainian hackers created fake profiles of attractive women to trick Russian soldiers into sharing their location. Report says. Days later, the base was blown up. So how old did you think this was? Because I just saw it last week.
It could be new. It sounds like a story that I have heard already.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it makes sense when you consider that Ukraine just did like this huge counteroffensive and drove the Russians out of a whole like city. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wondering if that was what led to that counteroffensive. Was like, hey, we have all these positions on Russian soldiers.
And
Maybe we
it's
should-
possible. It's possible. Maybe I just caught it late. Sometimes the headlines I see are from like Microsoft Internet Explorer
Oh yes,
or
they're definitely old.
or the newer version of it. But I saw
think
that,
that-
and it made me laugh, and I read about it. And yeah, so legitly, like apparently they're not even soldiers. They're Ukrainian like online trolls
yeah.
who pretty much went online. And as somebody, as I think as you know, and we've talked about it on this before, I fuck with online scammers. In fact, I have a great story. I'm not going to talk about it tonight. It's very complicated. Recently, where I did a collaboration with another friend of mine to fuck with this scammer, and it was one of the. It's probably not funny to anybody else. It was one of the funniest things I think I did. But anyway,
Yeah.
but as someone who fucks with scammers, this story made me happy, and so yeah, so like just some Ukrainian hackers fucked with these Russians enough to get them to send photos of them, like taking selfies and shit on this base. I'm not sure if they shared the location. I forgot the details. And then sent the information to the Ukrainian army. And I thought that was just fucking cool. It's a cool story.
Yeah.
Normally when headlines catch me, it's because they're absurd. But this one was actually really fucking cool. Mm-hmm. Man, that's all I have to say about it.
I mean, it's because let's be honest here. Ukraine is probably the underdog in this war. So I love the ingenuity. I love the resourcefulness that they're resorting to. Because if it were up to me, I would send the army, the United States Army,
Really?
military, yeah, into help because it's fucked, dude. It is a fucked situation.
But you understand the...
I understand the ramifications. I do.
Okay.
Like I
Because I was like,
understand, and I understand why they haven't. But I think this is Putin showboating. This is Putin saying they're not going to stop me because I've got the bomb.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I don't want to jinx anything. I'm not going to go there. But
Okay, good. Yep.
yeah. Not in I would say an offensive like category, but for sure in a defensive category.
That you
Like-
think the U.S. should go in?
Yeah. Yeah. Ukraine's an ally. They need help. And just help bolster their defenses a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that because even Russian leaders have come out and said pretty much the U.S. and the level of their involvement is they might as well have put boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
But still, there is that line that to be crossed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I would disagree with you. I think sending aid is one thing to
Yeah.
actually put people because there are Americans who went independently,
Yes.
and
Talking about like
they've been captured.
ex special forces guys that.
Yeah, where they've gone independently, not representative of the U.S. And if you
Mm-hmm.
want to do that, hey, I'm a champion of freedom. Do your thing.
Yeah.
Um,
But don't
but
expect the U.S. to bail you out.
exactly, and
Yeah.
so that's where I'm kind of like, I would prefer if the U.S. stayed out of it. Now, if other states in that area who maybe aren't in the UN or in NATO want to step in and help Ukraine, I think that would be a good idea because at
Yeah.
least it's like their boys, their crew,
Mm-hmm.
and not quote unquote the West.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But yeah.
so
Hats off to Ukraine for the resourcefulness, the ingenuity, and,
mhm.
and the fucking trollmanship. Ugh.
Gotta love the trollmanship.
Yeah.
Because there's all sorts of, even when it started, we talked about it, like how, like, people were posting on YouTube how to, like, hijack Russian tanks and how to,
Yeah.
to jumpstart them. And, like, there's all this, like, crazy, it's interesting going through, like, or observing a war in the day of the internet, in the day of memes,
Yeah.
to where part of the morale effort on that side of it is to post memes and to troll and to fuck with them online. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
So you had a grocery gripe. I also have one. I'll let you go
did.
first.
My
You
first
did.
grocery gripe. Yeah. So I'm in line at the store the other day, just picking up a few things, and I have 10 items or less, so I go to the 10 items or less.
Yours is 10 items. Most of mine are 15.
It might be 15. I don't fucking know. But
I
I
respect
definitely
it
have
more
less,
express.
I definitely have less than 10 items. I had
Okay.
like maybe 5 or 6 items. And I'm in the express lane, waiting to check out, and there's this old lady who's checking out, and then a mom and daughter in front of me, and then me. And the old lady is she's in the express lane. She had the proper number of things. And like we're talking like pushing ancient old, like probably shouldn't be out on her own old.
Like moving really slow.
Moving very, very slow. But that's not the issue. The issue was she paid for her merch, got her change back, and proceeded to take the next 5 to 10 minutes looking at her receipt, counting her change, looking at the receipt again, counting her change, looking at the receipt again, and counting her change. And you can tell, like, even the guy, the checkout guy, looked at the line and he didn't say anything, but he gave us the look like, I'm so sorry.
Sure.
But because she wasn't communicating anything. She was looking at the receipt, counting her bills. And it was, oh, dude, for like, I was in line for 5 minutes and I was like, fuck this. Because by this time, all the other lines had dwindled. So
Yeah.
I just jumped into the next available line. And by the time I left, she was still checking out. Don't know
Yeah,
what was happening. Don't know what the issue was, but it's the express lane, lady.
So
Come on.
So I'm gonna go ahead and piggyback on you because my experience recently was similar, not the same, but similar.
Okay.
My question was, is this acceptable? A woman in the express lane, so this is both an express lane issue,
Okay.
was using exact cash and change. So but
So she had
kind of
to count it out.
similar but opposite to you. She did the exact cash, I'm sorry, and then counted out exact change. So it did probably not as long as yours,
Yeah.
but it did substantially delay the express lane. So
Yeah.
I was going to ask it as a question. Does that count as a violation of the express lane? Is exact change?
I mean,
Yours, I would say, is different because she
Yeah.
didn't use exact change, but she got change
Yeah.
and then just held up the line. Now we could say that that's
Yes.
because she's old or
For God
whatever.
knows what reason. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea why she was taking so long to counter change and reference the receipt and counter change. I have no idea why she was doing that. I will say, in today's day and age, it is somewhat okay to gripe about that.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, back in the day, I would say it would have been totally fine. Because getting change out for the cashier was an issue. They don't have to worry about the small change anymore. Now you have those dispensers that do it.
That give you exactly, yeah.
Yeah, they give you exactly what you need. So to count out exact change, you don't really need to do that anymore because it doesn't matter. The cashier doesn't have to do it anymore. That's why they got the machines, because it's more efficient.
Yeah. And then on top of that, like, granted, counting cash is a lot easier, but even like on the computers, you put in $100, and if your bill was $79, it gives the person how much they need to count out for you.
Yeah.
So double checking the cash I can understand, but yeah, counting the change is a bit much, especially if you do it repeatedly.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
say,
go on, sorry.
I was just gonna say today that would be a gripe because you don't need exact change. You really don't.
Yeah, and to the credit,
you're not making anything go by quicker by counting out exact change. You're actually,
well, sure.
It's more of a detriment.
And granted, she's older, so maybe she doesn't get it or whatever. But what I would have an issue with is, and this actually happened to me the other day. I was at a kind of call what you will, a public market, a packing house, one of these places, if it's a building or outdoor area where there's tons of food vendors and maybe a beer place or whatever. Mm-hmm. And it was Doghouse. I got in line at Doghouse and ordered some food, and there was a small line behind me, not a large line. And I didn't realize that like my back pocket had a button on it. So I started having trouble getting my wallet out. I haven't worn these shorts in a while. I didn't realize there was a button. I couldn't get my wallet out. And so I told her to cancel my order, and I stepped out of line. Because I literally just couldn't get my fucking wallet out. There wasn't a huge line. There was like one guy behind me. But because someone was waiting for me, I stepped out of line because I was holding everyone up. Mm-hmm. Pretty much what I'm saying is that I am a moral...
You're a paragon of morality, sir.
Yes, I am what you should look up to by stepping out of line. And then I realized there was a pocket. And what was funny is the guy who I stepped out of line for ended up turning around and walking away anyway. So I kind of was like, oh, okay, and just stepped back in. Yeah. But no, so my point is, like, I noticed that I was holding someone up. I stepped out of line. That would be my gripe with this woman, is that she's old, she uses change, whatever. But the fact that she was kind of holding the line up and wasn't aware of it, it's the self-awareness that kind of bothers me.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things, like, if she would have turned to the mom and daughter in front of you and kind of like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to...
Yeah, not a fucking word.
That's what I mean. If there was communication, it would have been okay.
And that's the other thing. She didn't say anything to the cashier either. She was just... And it's like, you can tell the cashier's like, bitch, I gave you I gave you exactly what you needed. Like, just... go.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, it was noticeable that he was trying to avoid eye contact with this lady. Like, he was
sure.
just looking literally anywhere but her.
I believe
it's like, it's on the receipt, you can count it out, but don't count it like 8 times, which she did. It was just so fucking weird. Like,
yeah. So your situation was a little different, but for my situation, using exact cash and exact change, are we going to, as philosophers, say that is acceptable in the express lane, or are we saying it's not acceptable?
I don't see a huge problem with it. If she was like holding up the line just because she lost count 15 times,
I think she counted accurately the first time. It still took longer than I'm comfortable with, because I'm obviously very Nazi-like when it comes to the express lane.
Yeah.
But so I'm actually planning on writing a children's illustrated book. And I already talked to our friend DJ about illustrating it.
Okay.
So it's going to be a passive-aggressive children's book about grocery store etiquette. And that's why I'm asking these questions, Danny. I'm researching.
Good. Good.
So are we saying it's acceptable as long as it's quick?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so one count.
Anything involving the store is acceptable as long as it's quick.
Touche. So One count. We'll say one count. If you have to recount,
Yeah.
no. One
No.
count, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Perfect.
Okay. Do you have something else? Or no, I got something fun and quick.
You got something else, yeah.
So this is actually going to lead into a little bit of a lengthy conversation, but not too long.
Okay. Have you said this before?
I said this before. True story.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. Um, so recently at the good old bar, we've been. It's not that we've had problems with people we're trying to hire cooks because we lost a lot of cooks based on health reasons, mainly health reasons. And so we're trying to get more cooks in. So I've been going on this hiring spree, trying to get people.
So when you say health reasons, do you mean they were violating health code or
No.
they were just-
So
they
one
couldn't work
guy,
because of some ailment?
they couldn't work because of an ailment.
Okay.
That's what I mean. I'm sorry.
Got to be clear, man.
No, of course. No, they couldn't work. I'm not going to go into details. One guy got the job and was clear that he had arthritis in his wrist, but he said it wouldn't be an issue. It ended up being an issue, and he said, I can't do it anymore. Like, I feel like I'm a burden, etc. One guy started getting, or had the potential of having blood clots in his legs for standing for a long time. So it's like, okay, yeah, you get the fuck out of here. Like, we don't want that. Which was horrible because that guy was awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I've been trying to go on, like, trying to hire people. And I've talked about this before, how hiring people in this day and age is a fucking nightmare.
Yes.
Eddie's talked about it, how it really is an employee market right now. Because of, like, I think Eddie referred to it as the great resignation, that people are not putting up with shit anymore.
Yeah.
And they're really picky. And so I get it and I'm for it. But that doesn't justify shitty behavior.
Oh, absolutely.
Like ghosting and shit. Like, I've talked about it in the past where I've set up like 10 interviews and 2 people show up. Mm-hmm. Not without a call, without a text, nothing. So I've been going with that the last couple weeks. And so I have a few stories, a few things. The first one I'll say, this is more of a funny thing. A guy or girl, I don't know, their name, we use Indeed.com. Their name on Indeed.com, their first name was Praise God. And then the last name was, I'm assuming their last name. But I was like, you put on your professional resume on Indeed.com, your first name was Praise God.
Maybe it is Praise God.
I'm not calling that person.
Hey, your atheist is showing, asshole.
I'm not an atheist.
I know you're not.
I'm not calling that person because I'm not going to ask for praise God. You understand? I love observing awkward people in awkward situations. I don't like being in them.
Yep.
And so I'm not going to call someone on the phone and someone answers and I say, hi, is this praise God?
They're like, excuse me?
Yeah, no. And so it was kind of like, I think I showed it, I put it in our group chat that a guy on his resume, and I actually invited him, this is months ago, for an interview. He didn't come. Put on his resume that he was like trained in diffusion of weapons of mass destruction. And this is for like a cook position. And it was just sprinkled in there. I have a photo of it somewhere on my phone. Like, I'm not hiring you. Unless you're doing
you're way too overqualified for a cook position.
First of all, yeah. Way too overqualified. But so there was that. It was just funny that somebody put praise God in their profile, and I'm like, I don't know who's gonna call you. Because I'm not asking for praise God.
Yeah.
Secondly, and this one might be sensitive to some of our listeners, I found on several resumes on Indeed.com, people were putting stay-at-home parent or full-time homemaker
As a job?
as their occupation.
Ugh.
And I 100% respect stay-at-home parents, moms and dads alike. But on your professional resume,
Nah. Just put unemployed.
yeah, or just if there's a gap, just say, yeah, I took time off to be a parent. Like, but don't, because at first I thought it was like they were taking care of someone, like, you know, they were like a at-home nurse or something. By full-time home, I forgot what it was, but And then I read like the description, and it was her just describing like taking care of her kids. And
Yeah. Well, you know,
you
Mike,
know,
it is the hardest job on the planet.
I'll go
Being a
Bill
parent,
Burr on you real quick.
being a full time parent. No, because I totally agree with Bill Burr. It's like, really, it's the hardest job. You ever seen the Hurt Locker? That looks like a hard job.
What did he say?
It's a
Someone
hell of a
pasty
lot
like
harder.
me on top of a roof, working on your roof?
Yeah. Have you ever hot tarred a roof? Have you ever done literally anything else besides parenting?
Ever been down in the mines? But I think parenting is tough, and it's respectable to say you're at home parent, but
Oh yeah.
just seeing that on a professional resume, I was like, I don't know. I just it was kind of one of those thoughts where I was like, am I the asshole here, or am I just
Well, let's be perfectly honest here. You are an asshole.
fair?
Lovable as you are an asshole. But I don't think you're the asshole in this situation. That is like it's a professional resume, guys. I'm sorry. I acknowledge being a parent is not the easiest thing to do. It is not a job. One, you don't get paid to do it.
You're not getting paid. You're definitely not getting paid.
If anything, it's the world's worst internship.
Yeah, that's good. The world's worst internship, because all parents will even say they didn't do a good job.
Yeah, yeah. As good a job you did, you always could have done better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just like I would never think to even the paying gigs I did. I would never put like my creative shit, like my acting jobs and my acting gigs,
No.
on my professional resume.
Especially if it's a resume to like have multiple resumes.
No, sure,
Like,
that's what I mean. Yeah, yeah.
if you're an actor, yeah, put your acting shit on your acting resume. If you're applying to be a cook, yeah,
Not required.
not required. I mean, I'm sure they can cook up some really good dino nuggets.
Yeah,
And some
course,
Easy
of
Mac.
course. Some PB and J's.
Some PB and J's.
Well, even
ants
like
on a log.
so, even if you're applying to be like a babysitter or even like a childcare service,
Yeah,
I think it would be important to put, maybe that you were a stay-at-home parent for 10 years
yeah.
because you know how to take care of kids. But on a resume, to be a server or a cook in a professional kitchen, unless you're cooking up your kids like straight up like kitchen line shit, like you're preparing steaks for your kids, I don't give a fuck, and it's irrelevant. And I don't know. It just I saw that.
So here's what you do. If somebody puts that on their resume and they come in for the interview, the first question you ask them is like, so tell me how your experience as a professional professional homemaker.
It was
Qualifies you for
I
this
deleted
job.
it, but yeah, ask him. Yeah,
Tell me how being a stay-at-home mom for the last 10 years makes you qualified for this job.
I just
And
didn't call.
and if they can explain it and lawyer the shit out of that, hire him, dude. Hire him.
That's fair. That's fair. I just didn't call him because to me, there are red flags on resumes that I've learned over the years. Sometimes I ignore them if we're desperate. Sometimes I don't. And this time I didn't ignore it. What face is that? You're making a face.
Yep, I'm making a face because I'm getting judged.
Is she there?
Yep.
Fine. So, yeah, I don't know. That just like I remember one time someone was applying for a cook position, and on their resume or their application, they described their job in the Navy and misspelled their job.
What did they put? Explosive ordnance demolition?
No, it was something technician. I forgot what it was, but it was misspelled. And I was younger, but I remember thinking, that's not good. That they, what I'm saying?
No.
That they misspelled. And sure enough, this guy, I could do an whole episode. This guy, to shorten it, he had a twin, and the twin was coming into work from him every now and then. We found this out later. So there was days where he would come in and have no idea what the fuck's going on. And everyone's like, what's wrong with this guy? Turns out he has a twin that would come in and cover for him. And he was the only person that I know that got 86th from a local diner called Corky's for defrauding a customer.
Wait. So as a customer,
No, he was a dishwasher.
Uh,
He was a dishwasher, and he convinced, and he would occasionally bust, and he convinced a regular, this old woman, that he had cancer, and she gave him a few $1,000s to go towards cancer
dude,
treatments.
He's a fucking grifter. Oh my god.
Yeah, and then, so it was after we fired him that we called Corky's to talk about him, and they told us this. They probably shouldn't have legally.
Maybe you should have called Corky.
This was early days where we were learning, and so they told us the story. And after he got fired from there, she somehow got his phone number and called the house. And I guess his mom was like, "What are you talking about? He doesn't have cancer." So he ripped this old woman off with like a few $1,000. So Corky's was like, "Fuck this guy," and 86'd him. Anyway,
so fired him and then 86'd him.
Yes.
Okay.
So my last employment story happened today. Mm-hmm. And this is one of those stories where I feel like people think I make this shit up. So today, for the audience's sake, we recorded Wednesday night. This is when we're recording. Monday, I interviewed a couple of cooks. This one guy was maybe a little younger, but he was very confident. I was asking culinary questions that he answered pretty well. And I was like, okay. So I called him later that day, and I was like, hey, man, we'd like to bring you on board. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. I called him. He didn't answer. I texted the number on his resume on Indeed. Didn't answer. And this is common on Indeed. A lot of people forget to update their numbers and contact, etc. So I just messaged his Indeed account. I was like, hey, man, I want to bring you on board. When can you start? Blah, 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 blah. And he ended up messaging back the Indeed account and said, like, yeah, dude, I'm on board. I'm available Wednesday. I'm open all day. And I was like, cool. Can you give me like your email and a valid phone number so I can get you on our scheduling app? Blah, 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 blah. And he did. And sure enough, the phone number didn't match what was on the Indeed app. So I was like, okay, that's what happened. Okay. So then Tuesday comes, and I just shoot him a text. And I'm like, hey, I just want to confirm you're starting tomorrow, 3 o'clock. Doesn't answer. I was like, okay. So I message him on Indeed just in case I got the number wrong or some shit. Message him on Indeed again. Same thing. Hey, man, I tried texting you. You didn't respond. Just want to confirm tomorrow, 3 o'clock. No answer. I was like, okay. So I texted him when I got up this morning on Wednesday. Texted him around 8 o'clock, I think. Hey, man, I just want to confirm you're going to be in at 3 o'clock today to start working for us. Let me know. And a couple hours later, he texted me back saying, like, hey, yeah, is it okay if I come at 4? I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, I got my other job today, and I get off at around 3. And I was like, well, you told me that, like, I said it politely, but I was like, I thought you said you had, like, any time today. And he responded, he's like, yeah, I'm sorry, like, after today, I'm going to change my schedule around, so it won't be an issue going forward, but just today, whatever. And I was like, kind of a red flag, but okay, so I'll see you at 4. And he doesn't respond to that. So I'm bringing the text up. So at 4:01, he sends me 2 texts.
Oh, great.
First text is, bro.
Oh.
Second text is,
your boss like that?
Yeah. Second text is, can you pick me up?
What the fuck? No.
I swear to God. I swear to God. I was going to actually send this. I screenshot it, and I was going to send it to you earlier, but I wanted your actual reaction.
You got it.
Yeah, so he said, bro, can you pick me up? This is a guy I interviewed 2 days ago. I've only communicated through text since then. And he says, bro, can you pick me up? And I was like, oh, my God. And so I actually, one of our other cooks who's like a lead, I kind of showed him. I was like, what the fuck is this guy? And all of them were like, what the hell? Like, this is unbelievable. And so I texted back thinking maybe he texted the wrong guy. Maybe he's having just one of those rough days. He needs a ride to work, whatever. Yeah. So I just texted him back, do you not have a ride? And he never texted me back. Didn't show up. Nothing.
What the fuck, dude?
And it's one of those things, like, I honestly, like, I wouldn't believe it if someone else told me. Well, now I would. But you are asking, assuming he didn't mean to text somebody else, he was asking a guy he interviewed with 2 days prior for a ride to a job. Yeah, his boss, for a ride to the job he just interviewed for. Like,
so on your applications, do you have adequate transportation for work?
I believe so. And we also ask.
Yeah.
At the location, yeah.
Clearly, he doesn't. So that means he lied on his application.
I don't think it's in the written application, but we always ask.
Okay.
But it was just like I said, I am completely 100% okay with employees taking the initiative to make sure they get the right wage, to make sure they're not working their asses off for nothing. I get it. But this is different. This is I couldn't speak after, because I was actually interviewing someone for a server when that text came in, so I just kind of brushed it aside. And then once I was done, I looked at it and I was like, "What?" I don't know. It was just that there's my hiring gripes for the week,
Yeah.
or 2 weeks.
Jesus. That's bad, man.
I don't.
Like, I'm all, yeah, and, like, to back up your point, I'm all for, like, the great resignation. Like, if your job is treating you like shit, you don't have to be loyal to a job that treats you like shit.
Yeah, 100%.
And unfortunately for me, I spent 12 years at a place where I probably only should have spent 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But yeah, but like to do something like that, like, he was the cook. There wasn't another cook you guys could have gone to. You did.
Yes and no.
But it puts you and that cook in a really tight spot.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the right way to phrase it. The only reason I could ever see myself doing this to a business or anyone
is if they fucked you over.
It's because, and I'm trying to fuck them back.
Yeah.
But I never met this guy. And so we just hired. I'm giving you a job. But this is not even a new thing. I think I may have mentioned it on the podcast. I hired a security guy one time, a doorman, if you will.
True story.
True story. I've said this before. I'm just not sure if I've said it on this before, to be honest. But I remember I hired a guy, or I interviewed him, and later that week I called him, talked to him on the phone, text with him, saying I wanted him to come on board. He was like, awesome. And I was like, can you be there Wednesday, 5 o'clock? I'll get all the paperwork together, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, I'll be there. Never fucking showed up.
No phone call, nothing.
Nothing. And it was like, I just don't. All you have to do, in my opinion, even if you're like, fuck this guy, just send me a text. Hey, never mind.
It doesn't have to be a phone call. A text.
Mm-hmm.
Something
An email.
Hey, I can't make it. I'm sorry. I can't make it.
Well, so, which brings actually to another situation that happened last week. Still shitty, but at least he told me. So we hired this guy. He worked for us as a cook, like in January, February, I forgot. And after a few weeks, he had to leave because of some personal issues going on. He ended up telling me, but I'm not going to go into it. It's not important. But he had some serious personal issues going on. So he saw that we were hiring for cooks. This is a week or 2 ago. And so he shot me a text, and he's like, hey, man, I see you're looking for cooks. I want to get back into the game. My personal shit's resolved. What's up? And I was like, oh, shit. And I talked to our head cook, and I was like, we've already kind of trained him. This might be a good thing. So the cook's like, yeah, let's bring him in. So we brought him in. He comes in last Monday. I was like, hey, man, how you doing? You ready to go? He's like, I'm ready to go. Cool. I'm like, all right. And it was a short day for me, a proof short day, because we were going to my future in-laws for a little barbecue. And so I was getting ready to leave, and I ran a quick errand, and then I got a call from him. This is like 2.5 to 3 hours into the shift. He calls me, and granted, he's not there alone. Like, our head cook was there with him, kind of retraining him. But he calls me, and he's like, hey, man, yeah, you know what? Not for me. I'm sorry. And I was like, I'm sorry? Like, what? And he's like, yeah, man, like, I'm sorry to waste your time, but, like, it's not for me. I thought I'd enjoy it, and I don't enjoy it. So I'm leaving. And I was like, did you talk to, I'm not going to say his name, did you talk to our head cook, our head chef? And he's like, yeah, no, I just left. I'm leaving. And I was like, oh, okay. And we hung up. And so I wasn't planning it, but I went back to the bar. And I walk into the kitchen. And sure enough, I'm not going to use his real name just for Ted. Ted, our head chef, is sitting there doing some prep work, doing some stuff. And I was like, hey, have you talked to Guy? I don't want to say his name. Have you talked to the guy? And he was like, oh, no, he's in the restroom right now. Or he like pointed, he's like, he's in the restroom. And I was like, he's in the restroom. He's like, yeah. I was like, no, he left. And Ted, the head cook, if you will, was kind of like, no, he didn't. He just, a minute ago, he told me he was just going to use the restroom. was like, no, he left. He's fucking out. And I showed him like the call on my phone. I was like, he just called me, told me he quit. Not for him. And our head cook Ted was like, what the fuck? And I kind of asked, I was like, did you guys like get into it? Was it unpleasant? Like, was there something going on? He was like, no, it was vibing. Like, I was showing him how to do shit. He seemed into it, blah, 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 blah. He's like, are you fucking serious? He just fucking left? I was like, yeah, he told you he was using the restroom and he fucking dipped. And
in that situation, I would have looked at your, like, if you guys have a safe, I would have checked your safe because it sounded like he cleaned you out and then bounced.
no, safe was good. Like, our safe's locked up. Everything was fine. It just he didn't ask for money. He didn't ask for a check. Nothing. He just dipped.
Well, because he worked 15 minutes, an hour,
2.5 hours, and it wasn't for him. And so, I can respect that, but like, you're gonna leave mid shift. You can't even finish the shift. We've had guys. We've had people
fucking shift.
Yeah, and we've had people who put their 2 weeks in for like legit like concerns. But they finish their 2 weeks. They just don't leave us high and dry.
Yeah.
I was kind of like that. That's it. Like he didn't even tell the fucking head cook he was leaving. He just left.
That's like a new level of like cowardice and low. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Like what's just, like you have such a problem with confrontation that you can't even say, "Yes, I quit. I'm just gonna sneak out."
Yeah, and that's where I imagined, had he not called me, our head cook Ted, 10 minutes later probably like,
and I know your head cook. There's like he's a fucking teddy bear, man. Like he's not the kind of person. Well, all right, he's a teddy bear to me, but he's not the kind of guy who's just gonna be like, "I'm gonna fuck you up in the parking lot if you leave right now." He's not that kind of guy. At least in my experience.
Yeah. No, at least not to like a fresh body. Yeah.
Yeah.
But but that's the culture we're in now.
I'm getting pissed off for you right now.
And I hate to sound like one of those no one wants to work. I don't want to sound like that guy, but I'm kind of like I'm starting to become that guy. Like fuck. No one wants to work. No, I don't believe that, but it's getting just so complicated where I'm just like, what the fuck is happening? Where a guy texts me asking for a ride on his first day. Like, Jesus Christ.
That's. Did he live like somewhat far away, or was he like just down the street?
I forgot. I know on Indeed it normally shows like what city they live in. But I forgot what it said. I think he may have been within a city or two range.
Okay.
But
so
just
like a bus ride.
Yeah, it was just weird.
Yeah, that's.
I would have preferred if he texted me. Go on, sorry.
Especially if he was like it was an assumption of his that you would be down to give him a ride into work.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you must live nearby. Can you give me a ride to work?
I would have almost preferred like, hey, I don't have a ride to work. Can I rain check? It wouldn't have been okay, but at least it was like in good faith.
Do you give your employees like a 90-day probationary period? Or
Not
like
officially, but kind of. Like we'll say like, hey, if it doesn't work out in the first few weeks, we're gonna let you go.
Yeah. Okay. So like, instantly, just like boom, red flag. Like that's a sign that this probably isn't gonna work out.
Yeah. I mean, there was already a red flag when he said I'm available all day. Then it turns out he wasn't.
Yeah.
So that was already a red flag. And then when that happened, in the back of my head, I was like, okay, this guy's not lasting. Yeah. And he didn't fucking show up or respond to me. So it was like, all right, fine.
Bye.
Anyway, and there's another story. I'm not gonna get into it now. Another really bizarre fucking story. Once I find the text message, I'm gonna tell that on a future episode because it's really fucking funny to me anyway. But anyway, what else we got?
Current events.
Current events.
So, yeah.
The Queen died. Into the politics.
Yeah, the Queen died. Long live the Queen.
I don't care.
Yeah, it's just like like all these people in America, like, oh my god, the Queen died. It's like she was fucking 96. It's about fucking time. And it's like, does that mean that the world is going to shift? No, she doesn't have any power. She can't do fuck all except receive guests.
Yeah, I don't. I don't care. I mean, let me rephrase. Of course, there were people who loved her, her
Yeah, of
family, her
course.
friends, and to them, you know, all
Thoughts
hopes
and
and
prayers.
prayers. Yeah, there you go. But yeah, like to me, I don't
Yeah.
I don't care. I mean, there's been some
It's like,
pretty good memes.
oh, the Kobe one killed me, dude.
Oh yeah. Do you see the one? It was like Betty White 99
Yeah. Yeah.
and Queen
Queen Elizabeth
96. America
96.
wins.
We
Yeah.
win. That was good
Um.
too.
Yeah. Even so, like I don't. I want to be clear. I'm not a fan of the ex-president Trump. And never have been. But even like I started seeing like a lot of liberal commentators saying like, "Oh look, Joe Biden got an invitation to the funeral, and Trump didn't." Ha! In my head, I was like, "Do you think Trump gives one fuck that he wasn't invited to this funeral?"
Well, no, he was good friends with Prince Andrew.
Fine, but that's what like
But that's you don't know anything about Prince Andrew, do you?
I think I do. I think I know what you're
Prince
alluding
Andrew
to.
was involved with Jeffrey Epstein
Yes, I
and
did know
Ghislaine
that.
Maxwell. Okay.
My point being,
Yes.
I don't think Trump's sitting in his house, his home, whatever fucking resort, crying that he wasn't invited
No,
to
he's
this funeral.
too busy trying to avoid accountability for hoarding
Well,
government documents.
we could talk
We'll
about
get
that
there.
too.
Don't worry, we're gonna get there. We're still talking about the Queen though.
No, I just like it's sad, 100%. It's sad. Someone
Yeah,
died.
it's the end of an
Anytime
era.
someone
It
dies,
truly is the end of an era.
yeah, and I know there are a lot. There's been jokes that like a lot of what was it? I think it was gays, Jews, and blacks on Twitter were just fucking roasting her. Which fine.
Yeah.
If she was complicit in some nasty shit.
Yep.
But I just don't like I we talked about it on here one time. The only celebrity death that really gutted me, or at least punched me in the gut, was Kobe.
Yeah.
Because like that was like we grew up with him. He wasn't an actor, he was an athlete. He was a fucking warrior.
Yeah.
And having him die in such a fucking sudden way was tragic. So it really was a punch to the gut, but like this woman was 96.
Yeah. It was
Like
and she
it-
died in her bed, comfortable.
Yeah, I mean
Like
even
I mean, granted, she was in the hospital, so she wasn't in her bed, but she was in a
But,
bed.
yeah. but she was comfortable. Like even not to get we don't have to go into it too much, but like even when my dad passed, we knew for months it was coming. And I know
Yeah.
our tales of our fathers are different, but for me, it was for months. Like okay, we know it's coming. So like when he passed, it was obviously very tragic, but it wasn't something that was a surprise or something that was like crazy. It was just like okay, no, it was happening. And so for her, it's like you're 96. Like no disrespect, but like why is this such a shock?
What the fuck are you clinging on to?
I was like, and then it's kind of funny. Like her son, who's like in his 60s or some shit, is the new kid. Like,
No, he's like I want to say he's in his 70s now.
I was
He's
I was
fucking old.
yeah, I was giving him some leeway, but yeah, I mean, to me, there's been some pretty good memes, and outside of that, I don't really have a response.
Well, the big thing that's kind of happening now is we're seeing kind of the youth of England kind of start this anti-monarchy. Like not start, but it's really like coming to a head now that the old monarchy's dead, the new monarchy is going to be coronated here pretty soon. So like a lot of the youth is taking this time to voice their objection to the monarchy, and I mean, great. Like the monarchy really doesn't do anything in England. It's just more of
I was
a
about to say that you
traditional
beat
type
it to it.
of gig. But yeah, it kind of begs that question: why the fuck is there still a monarchy? You guys have a constitution. You have a parliamentary government with a prime minister. Why do you still need a monarchy?
Yeah, I mean, you like I said, you just beat me to it. The royal family really doesn't have any true governmental role anymore. It's just like you said, it's just a tradition. And so why do we celebrate that someone was just born into that family?
Yeah, it's
Well,
yeah,
not
it's
us,
all
but them.
pomp,
But yeah,
circumstance, and tradition. That's all it is. And
yeah.
yeah, and then, like now, like the politics are like, well, who's gonna inherit after Charles? It's like we already know who's gonna inherit after Charles, but why the fuck does it matter?
I was like, and who the fuck cares? It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Um,
he's gonna be a great ruler. No, he's not.
no, he will be because he doesn't have to do anything.
He doesn't have to do fuck all. The biggest problem that Charles will ever face, what happened the other day, when he was like at the table trying to sign a document or some shit, and like the biggest, like you just see him just do this because there was like too many pens on the desk. He's like, didn't say anything, but had some like servant or whatever the fuck it was move the pen so he wouldn't have to. I'm like, that's your biggest issue.
I mean, I can't say I'm not envious.
But like, yeah, the pens are right there. Yeah, no, move them. No. I have people for that. Just move the fucking pens, you asshole.
Yeah, I don't. I'm repeating myself, but the memes were great.
Yeah, the memes were great.
They continue to be great.
Yeah.
I just don't. This is a weird comparison, but I think it'll make the point. Like when 9/11 happened.
Uh-oh.
Hold on, because I remember this came. I'm not gonna go into the whole story.
Hear me out.
When 9/11 happened, it's a horrible thing. It affected a lot of people. Tragedy, lives, were lost, etc. And then I remember, I think I may have told you this story. When I was in Australia, some guys that I was drinking with, I went out with the staff of the hotel I was in. Of course I did. And
Of course you did.
and we were drinking and we were talking about America, Australia, blah blah blah. And I forgot how it came up, but someone was like, I just don't think the Americans could justify the Iraq war with 9/11. And like all of his buddies were like, "Yo, shut the fuck up. He's American. He's American. Relax. Like, don't."
And you were like, "No, I agree."
No, because they thought that it was a super sensitive thing, and I was like, "Guys, it affected me as much as it affected you. I don't know anyone who died.
Yeah.
I saw it on TV. It was awful, but like, it didn't affect me. And I'm not saying that in a callous way. That's the truth. It didn't affect me. It was awful. I saw it on TV. I still remember where I was when it happened, but it didn't affect me." And so to kind of compare that to the Queen thing, I know a lot of people are upset. There's probably people in England who worshipped her and are sad, and that's sad for them. But to me, it's like, this has no effect on my life.
Yeah.
There's no, I didn't follow her life. I wasn't a fan. It's not like I hated her, but I wasn't a fan. Like, I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
So that's it. I don't know.
I think we can stop there.
Yeah. Anyway, Mar-a-Lago.
Mar-a-Lago. The place where your dreams go to die and your belt goes to expand.
Hey,
just made that up.
It. So
yeah,
what are your thoughts on it? Yeah, I'll let you go.
So I've kind of been like debating in my head about this for the last however long it's been. What's it been, like a month since they raided his place? And a lot of people are like, well, it's a very sensitive area. There's no precedent for it. My convictions are this: and it says this in the document, we are a nation of laws, not of men. So when somebody fucks up as royally as this douchebag fucked up, they have to be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I've said this before. I am a very strict constitutionalist. All right? The abortion ban, it sucked. It really did. But the Constitution doesn't have anything in it that says abortion. And I blame that on our representatives and our senators who didn't codify it earlier.
Yeah.
But they never codified it. So it sucks, but
it is what it is.
I mean, the Supreme Court has a point. But at the end of the day, the Cheeto broke the law.
Mm-hmm.
He violated an ordinance. He needs to face consequences. And there are a lot of MAGA Republicans who hopefully will listen to this, but they're going to listen to that and they're going to say fuck you. But if you have any respect for the law, like a lot of MAGA people say they do, you know, with their thin blue line and bullshit, then you have to realize that this guy did something he wasn't supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
He took something that was not his, and then lied about it.
Yeah. I said this before we got onto, and I'll say it again. I wish Mitch was here because I know Mitch kind of serves as, I consider you kind of the more left liberal. I'm kind of moderate. Mitch is kind of the right wing conservative. So I'd like if he was here. He had to move and be busy moving.
Yeah.
So it's his fault. No, I mean, you're right. And before any of our 7 viewers start flipping out about that, I want to. So Mitch and I, we talked about we had a wing competition here, and him, me, and another guy were drunkenly talking politics at a table at one point.
It's always a good idea.
No, it was actually very cordial. But one thing I said was, 'cause I know there's a lot of whataboutisms being thrown around. You're aware of what that is.
Yes.
And so I want to address a whataboutism for a moment. Hillary Clinton.
Yep.
To be clear.
You were going to say it.
No, to be clear. In 2016, when Comey came out and gave that press conference and pretty much said we're not going to file charges against Hillary Clinton, I thought it was the wrong move.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was irresponsible of the FBI, and I disagreed with it. With that said, I completely disagreed with it. I want to make that clear. But that doesn't mean that now the FBI is playing politics.
Yeah.
And we don't have to go into the very intricate details of the differences.
It's a different head of the FBI now. It's not the same FBI it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Sure,
it is.
But my point is that a lot of people, a lot of what you said, the MAGA people are saying like, well, what about her? What about this? What about that? And I will say, I completely disagreed with the way the FBI handled that. But that doesn't mean they're corrupt now. And that doesn't mean this decision or these moves are politically biased. It's a fact. The whataboutism is ultimately a fallacy, a logical fallacy. And so people using it now, granted, we could talk about Hillary Clinton and the ways I think that was mishandled.
Yeah.
That doesn't change the fact that Trump fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Trump did this. So it's one of those like, okay, so if this person got away with it, should we let this person get away with it? And the answer is no.
Yeah, exactly.
I learned that lesson early. My dad got a speeding ticket in a school zone, and he asked the cop, there's other people speeding, and the cop said, yeah, I pulled you over.
Mm-hmm.
Breaking the law is breaking the law.
Yep.
And again, I want to reiterate it, just for the whataboutisms out there. I think Hillary getting away with whatever she did was mishandled.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean that Trump deserves to be let off the hook either.
And that's what I'll say is it's that narrow mindset that a lot of these MAGA Republicans have, to where it's like, well, what about your guy? What about him? Well, they did this. Yeah, they should be in jail. I don't
We agree.
I don't worship my people the way you worship yours.
Yeah.
I'm not a member of that cult of personality that you are.
Yeah.
If somebody breaks the law, they need to face consequences for breaking the law. That's my conviction. I don't worship a person. I don't think whatever they do is right.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say, well, what about Hillary? I'm like, what about her?
Like, we agree.
We agree. Throw her ass in jail.
But
Fucking don't care. She broke the law. Throw her in jail.
yeah, and I mean, and there's a lot of, and I don't even want to defend Hillary Clinton, because if you ever follow me on Facebook, you know I do not have.
You're very equal in who you disrespect. It's great.
Yeah, but there are in her cases ways that I could defend her. I don't want to, so I'm not going to right now. But when you look at Trump's case, it's one of those things like if I caught you doing something, I don't know, if I caught you reaching your hand into the cookie jar and your response was to first say my hand wasn't in the jar, and then you said, well, my hand might have been in the jar, but it deserved to be in the jar. And then you said my hand wasn't in the jar, but even if I put my hand in the jar, I deserve to put my hand in the jar, and I'm entitled to put my hand in the jar. And then you said, you know what? I think you put my hand in the jar. And so if your team comes up with 30 different excuses or defenses of why your hand was in the jar, there's an issue. There should be one.
Yeah, there should be
if you
one
have a defense,
excuse.
there should
and
be
it's
one.
not even an excuse. It should be one defense. It's like, nuh-uh. No, it
or
wasn't.
whatever it is. But if there's so many different defenses of why your hand was in the jar, metaphorically speaking, it raises eyebrows, it raises concerns, it raises red flags.
Yeah.
And so with Trump's team, to a logical person, and I've actually talked to conservative people and I've seen conservative commentators actually point this out, a logical, rational person knows when so many different defenses come out from the same camp. Because first they said the documents weren't there. We don't have them. And then they were there. And it's like, well, Trump declassified them. But obviously that's bullshit.
President can't declassify shit on his own. It has
You
to
can't. I actually reminded the Office episode where he's like, I declare bankruptcy.
Yeah, you can't just say it.
You can't just say
There's
it.
a
Yeah.
process.
So there was that. And then it's like, well, he's a president. He's allowed to take his work home with him. And then it was like, well, wait, no, the FBI, they planted the documents there. And then it was like, well, wait a second. There was just a clerical error. And it's like when there's so many defenses, it's a red flag. And it's like you're clearly lying.
Yeah.
And so when people are saying it's politically motivated, it's blah, 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 blah. Even if it was, which I don't think it's not, in my opinion, even if it was, as you said, breaking the law is breaking the law.
Yeah. And the people that say it's politically motivated, the guy who's going after Trump right now was appointed by Trump.
Yeah, the FBI director, yeah.
So, what are the politics there? Is it political just because the guy happened to be the president? Like, explain to me how this is politically motivated.
Well, it's unfortunate that it's very unfortunate that, and we can go into a whole nother Trump rant, and I'm not going to right now, but that for some reason he has really gotten, riled up this corner of America, which I wouldn't even say it's most conservatives.
It's not. It's
a minority of
group.
conservatives.
Yeah.
That just believe this crazy shit. And it's sad when, especially people you like and love, go for it. It's just sad to me. And so that's where, like, if it's clear black and white, like, this happened, they found these documents that he shouldn't have had them, and people are somehow saying they were planted, it's conspiracy. I even saw, apparently, on one of the podcasts I listened to, I guess Trump, in the last week or so, sometime in the last week, traveled to Washington, D.C. And it turned out he was, like, meeting a lawyer or something. I forgot what it was. But all of a sudden, these people are like, he's going to get reinstated. That's why he's there. And it's like, what?
What? Yeah.
Even
These are the same people that thought JFK Jr. was going to come back from the dead and be a
Yeah.
Republican.
like the whole
There is
even
a sickness within this cult.
yeah.
where-
And the thing is, and Mitch is one of these people. Not the crazy people. I'm sorry. Mitch is one of these people. Like, I can understand. I'm not saying I agree, but I can understand, especially in 2016, someone voting for Trump because they don't like Hillary. I know a lot of my liberal friends will disagree with that, and fine. But I can see why someone would not want to vote for Hillary, so they voted for Trump. I get that. I can understand. Not agree with, but I can understand people voting for Trump because they're just, I vote Republican no matter what. I get that. I'm not saying I agree, but I understand it. But for these people who like, that's their guy, and no matter what he does, like, that's our guy,
That's a problem.
it's just really sad. And so I would say Mitch is one of the ones who I think, like, he just votes Republican. And if Mitch is listening to this, which he might on his road trip, he could have a rebuttal next time he's on.
Fuck you, Mitch.
But no, I think he's Mitch is one of those guys. And trust me, I can't blame someone for not voting for Hillary in 2016. In fact, not a popular opinion. I can see why someone didn't want to vote for Biden in 2020.
Yeah.
In 2020 or 2019, it came up on my memories on Facebook last year. in October, I thought that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden should both drop out of the Democratic primary. Whoa! What a twist. So, but yeah, it's just really, really odd what has happened. I have my theories, but that could be a different episode, a different rant.
Yeah,
Because right now we're talking about the Mar-a-Lago shit. I heard today it was I think it was, who was the guy who went to jail and now it's Michael something. Cohen? Michael Cohen? He was a lawyer for Trump?
Maybe. I'm not so sure about. There was Bannon, Steve Bannon.
Not Bannon. Because this guy fucking rips on Trump now.
Oh yeah,
Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen.
The Senate hearing, right? Where
I think he had because he went to jail. I think for lying to the feds or something, and then he turned on Trump, and since then he's been fucking Michael Cohen. Yeah, I think it was Michael Cohen and a couple other people said that Trump probably has more documents at other resorts, and it's like okay. Now here's a question. Do you think he will be indicted?
Honestly, dude, at this point in time, it could go either way. It's 50-50 for me. I hope that he is. If he isn't, then our system has failed, and there's no such thing as the United States of America anymore.
Oh, a little dramatic.
That's drastic, but when you think our nation is built on the principles of law.
Mm-hmm.
The Constitution is the supreme law of the land. He violated that, and if he's not held accountable for that violation, then what the fuck is going on? What why are we even here? What are we doing? What are we trying to do?
Yeah, that's fair. So here's a question. I personally think that he might be indicted, but he'll never go to prison. It'll be like house arrest or something.
Yeah, it'll be house arrest for sure.
But
that means hey, he can't run again. Great.
Yeah. So do you think I read about this? I know Lindsey Graham said something about it, and he took flack for it, and other people are talking about it. Do you think if Trump is indicted, and on top of that convicted or whatever, what scope of violence do you think will take place?
I know
Serious
people are going to try to incite violence.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's going to go that far, though.
Yeah, I don't think like civil war. Like people are talking about that.
I don't think civil war. Don't get me wrong. I think a civil war at this point in time is pretty inevitable for our country. I just don't think this is going to be what starts it.
See, well, okay, let's shift it to that because now it's kind of a more civil war is not a light topic, but it's a lighter topic. I think a civil war right now would be unimaginable and sloppy because look, the Civil War.
Most of them are.
Well, no, because look in Jesus Christ, 1868 was it the 60s, right? Dude, I'm blanking. I'm fucking blanking. I'm tired.
1852 to 1864, something like that.
For some reason, I thought it was early in the 60s. Maybe I'm getting my dates wrong. Anyway, so Civil War. It was a clear distinction between the South and the North.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, there's no such distinction.
No.
So if there was a civil war somehow broke out between, I guess you would say, liberals and conservatives, there's no lines drawn. There's no military. I mean, I guess...
No, there will be a military, and lines will be drawn.
How? Just like metro cities that have liberals just build barriers? Like it's
essentially, yeah. It'll be what it is. The cities will be liberal, as they always have been, and then you'll have the rural areas. Or, they'll set up a new capital somewhere where there's a strong conservative presence, like Florida or Arizona or Texas, and that's where the people will go. And you'll have loyalists on both sides that will take their military resources and join whatever side.
But what about the actual U.S. military?
There will still be a U.S. military, and then whatever this splinter is, it all depends on who's in the office at the time. If there's a Republican in office, or if there's a Democrat in office, then it will be the Democrat or whoever side you fall on. That will be your government.
So it wouldn't necessarily be a civil war; it would be a rebellion.
Well, Mas or
Uh,
menos. That's
fair. But you know what I'm saying? Like, it just there's not like I said in the American Civil War that already happened.
Mhm.
There was clear lines drawn: South versus North, states versus
not.
states.
I mean, not at first.
Yeah.
When the Civil War broke out, Lincoln went to Robert E. Lee and said, "Hey, I want you to lead the Union," and Robert E. Lee said, "Nah, I'm going to stick in Virginia, and I'm gonna help Virginia out." Virginia then sided with the rebels.
Yeah. Clear line drawn.
Well,
Because states,
yes.
so states had their own delegations, or their own government, if you will, that decided if they were going to secede or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the whole state. The government was involved. Do you think now state legislators?
There won't be a secession. This will be more of an insurgency.
So it'd be more just fucking riots all over the place.
It'll be your cosplay triots, your militias, you know, with their airsoft gear and their legally owned AR-15s, going out into the streets and
So ultimately, it would just be riots.
Yeah,
because I would say I could only see the actual military, National Guard included, just not taking a side, just stopping it.
So that's the problem. It all depends on where the loyalties lie. If your loyalty is to the country, and that even can be dissected. What is your idea of country? Is it the people you're loyal to? Is it the government you're loyal to? It all depends on people's loyalties. If your loyalty is to law, then you'll side with the law. If your loyalty is to your state, your people, your convictions, then you'll side with that. It all depends because like you said, there's no clear motivation for what is going to divide us. It is going to be essentially a war of conviction. In that one side is going to believe one thing, the other side is going to believe another thing, and that's what it's going to be. There's not going to be any kind of clear delineation other than what the individual believes and what they're willing to fight and die for.
And I get that, but I mean, so ultimately, we kind of agree that the ground war, if you will, would just be a bunch of fucking riots in the street.
Armed riots.
Yeah, of course, armed riots, but so I wouldn't call it a war, but I think it would be Republican or Democrat. If that happens, National Guards would be sent in just to quell it, and that's it.
But who makes up the National Guard? It's a mix
Soldiers.
of Republicans and Democrats.
Yeah, so I don't think, but they I mean, granted, we can go down a road here, but they swore an oath to follow orders.
They absolutely did.
Yeah.
But again, it comes down to what do they believe? If they're getting orders from a government they no longer support, they just switch sides.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't. I've seen people talk about it. I've seen people predict it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think if push came to shove, if it's the whole Trump situation or something else, I think there would be violence.
Sorry.
You okay?
Yep.
I think there would be violence and death, unfortunately, but I don't see an actual civil war happen. I don't see it happening.
I don't know, man.
Now, I will say this. I will say I can see, and I actually, to a degree, would support the United States breaking up.
Interesting.
I'm not saying it's
That's
the best
treason,
idea.
by the way.
Huh?
That's treason, by the way.
No, like a mutual,
an agreement.
They come together and they're like, "This isn't working out. This is what we're going to do." And I think it would be interesting to see like how the different sections operate differently and who succeeds and who fails.
Except Abraham Lincoln made that illegal after
What?
the Civil War broke out. Secession. It's now illegal for states to secede from the Union.
Well, no. So I'm not saying that like California can't go, "Hey, fuck you all, bye." Like if they, like the Congress came together and had a session with not just like the Congress, like the Senate, whatever. A lot of people came together, and there was an agreement among states leaders. Like I think the joke or the theory was Oregon, California, Washington,
Pacific.
Alaska wasn't in that, was it?
No, it was essentially just the Pacific Coast states
No,
and
because I
Nevada.
think Nevada was included, and I think even Colorado, even though it wasn't land connected, was
Hmm.
thrown in there. That was like one nation. All of the New England area, New York, New Hampshire, Maine, all that was like one nation. They did like a Midwest nation, which, dear God, um,
What's your chief export? Chili
potatoes.
and mediocre
Um,
sports franchises.
yeah, and then there was obviously the Bible Belt
Yeah.
nation, and I actually, to an extent, if it was done peacefully, I would be okay with it,
Yeah.
if only experimentally.
Okay.
What are
Hey,
your
if this doesn't
thoughts?
work out in 5 years, we form back
We could
as the United
reconvene and,
States.
and see how it goes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it would be an interesting experiment.
I think if you do that, you open the door to invasion from outside. Um,
Yeah,
because
I think
to,
they're
to to quote a great philosopher, one ape weak, apes together strong.
so. What I was gonna suggest is kind of like NATO
Mm-hmm.
or the EU, that there would still be an American alliance
An
and a
alliance,
shared
okay.
and a shared, maybe not a shared military, but definitely an alliance to where we're
A shared
still,
like diplomacy.
yeah, we still fight together.
Okay.
As far as laws and regulations and government, we do our own thing. But when it comes to war and it comes to fighting, we're still a unit. Kind of
So
like the
kind of like a,
EU. Yeah.
a united American military.
Yeah. Kind of like the UN,
Okay.
NATO, etc. Anyway,
Okay.
it's random, but I know that has been discussed. And I'm not saying I'm necessarily for it, but I think it would be an interesting experiment.
I think it would too.
Mm.
It sucks because California's got the fifth highest GDP in the world.
But I
Um,
mean, in California, we'd be good.
we'd be good. Yeah, we'd
We'd
be
be
good.
good.
The only thing we would need would be like water, but we can get
That's
that from
that's why
Colorado, I think.
so that's why we keep Nevada in the fold. We keep Colorado in the fold.
Right on the fold. Yeah,
Well, that's what,
but
because politics aside, California gets a lot of heat. No pun intended. Eh,
because it's hot here.
but California gets a lot of heat. But like, if something were to happen where like all the states became independent, like we're good.
We're good. Yeah, we got
We
we got the
have,
resources. We got the workforce.
oh
We're
yeah,
good.
we have the entire, like, because I remember on one of
We got
these
the whole Pacific
forums,
Fleet. We're good.
but even like just to survive hypothetically, like, dude,
Yeah.
we got the entire Central Valley of farming.
Yeah.
Like, we got food, we got
We got food.
entertainment, we got
We
the
just need
ocean.
water. Just
Yeah,
need water.
just need water.
I
That's why
feel
we,
as though I feel as though like if we did secede and we couldn't get water from anybody, we would so quickly come up with a way to desalinate ocean water.
yeah, because we
'Cause
got what fucking Silicon
necessity's
Valley.
the mother
We
of
got
invention.
technology.
Yeah.
We have technology.
We got technology. We'd figure that shit out quick. And
No, yeah.
dude, if we figured out how to desalinate water and then sold that technology, nobody could fucking touch us.
Well,
We would be
I
so
think
rich.
I think we can. Desalinating water is possible. It's just really expensive and
It's
resource
really
heavy.
expensive. Yeah.
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 But no,
We
no.
found a way to do it cheaply and efficiently. Oh god.
Oh yeah. And like I said, people fucking talk shit about California. Oh, it's so expensive. Yeah, because everyone wants to fucking live here.
Yeah, because it's so fucking awesome here. Except for any other month outside of January. Oh, so October, November, January, December, February. Any other month out. I know I didn't do it in order. Fuck off.
What you mean? You mean those months are bad?
No, those months are good. It's the months outside of those months where everything fucking sucks.
Oh, I would only say like 1 or 2 months during the summer when it's just.
No, all of summer sucks.
Well, I prefer 70-degree weather year round, but
Well, that's like a December in California, dude.
yeah, yeah. So I'm with you. I'm just saying
What I
it's
don't
not,
like-
it's not intolerable.
Oh, okay.
What
You're
we
intolerant.
don't like is the last 2 weeks.
It's the last 2 weeks. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we just we ran the gambit here.
Yeah.
So I do want to do it in the future. if Eddie ever finds the fucking time to come back on here, I'd want all four of us, and I actually would be curious to see if just that it's not that we support it, but if it were to happen, the process of how that would happen of dividing the United States,
Yeah.
like just the legal process. What happens with the military? what happens with this, what happens with that. I find the topic very interesting.
Ultimately, I mean, we can go into it a little bit right now, but unless you just want to.
No, I feel like it's a discussion. If we start talking about it,
Yeah.
we're going to be here for another 45 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we'll nip it there. That's
Yeah.
fine.
No, but I think it's a very, and I'm not saying I support it or not support it, but I think it's an interesting topic to discuss. The
Absolutely.
process, the steps, if
Yeah.
that were to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Anything else, Denny?
I'll let you know right now. I'm utterly exhausted, so no.
Okay, so let's talk about the splitting of the United States. No. All right. We'll end it there then.
All right.
Danny, take us out.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I've been Danny Anthony. That guy right there is Michael Glenny, and you've been watching The Fake Philosophers. Thank you, and good night.